You gotta ask yourself, how is these details so detailed, descriptive, play-by-play, like a play-by-play book? It's like the time-traveling technology already knew that I was gonna speak about the details that's incorporated simplistically in Superman. Check it out. When you see Mason Point, I forgot to mention, I ain't catch it till when I rewatched it. Sometimes the guys will whisper to me to watch this, to read this, and I catch it. So notice that when Mason Point at the boy with the checker jacket, right? He's gonna point, and notice the guy next to Mason, he gonna go like this here. He gonna point as in to identify, look, as in to identify with his left, he go to his left ear. He's gonna point as in to say, listen, pay attention. He's gonna be the second point. Then Clark Kent is gonna point. Then that's when you're gonna see the guys down the way who's also gonna be signaling in the pointing direction. But the guy with the red shirt is gonna actually be the one who's going to go towards Mason and Lois Lane. When she say right, then he gonna turn right on their right to look at them. Man, it's cold lick. Then you're gonna notice Superman, Clark Kent. Why did he motion on his typewriter? He gonna grab the cup and then he gonna point on this cup. Remember I got to talking about the cup, on how the cup represents Serapis Soter. Is the reason why you seen Lois Lane head over the two cups. Man, I'm telling you, it's cold lick.
Okay, now look and pay attention. Now, Mason gonna point, and then the guy next to this dude with the brown and black checker coat, jacket, whatnot, next to the guy that's on the typewriter, he's gonna point with his left hand, with his left finger. He's gonna point to the left of his ear. Peep game, as it's the code is to say listen, but he's pointing too. The single is like a legend. You know, when they leave codes, they leave legends that leads you in a direction. Peep game. Look, they go to point right there. Man, I can't make this up. Now he point. Now look at Clark Kent. He's pointing, and also Clark Kent is pointing. Look. Check it out. He's pointing, then Clark Kent pointing. Now, you see this guy over here? Look, this guy right here with the red shirt, him, let's do that again. So, this guy right here with the red shirt, them two gonna point. They gonna point and single in the direction towards Sin and Lois. Check it out. Let's go. There they go. Now here go the guys that's in the red shirt down the way. I'm gonna show you. Where he's also, you'll see both of them actually, who's gonna be pointing in that direction. Him right here. You're gonna see him pointing in that direction towards Lois Lane, both them. Then he's gonna walk behind. He's gonna walk behind Lois Lane. You see? When he say sex maniac, then Lois Lane is going, that's when Lois Lane is going, she gonna say right to catch this guy over here attention, because it's cold talk. The red represents the sun, the rock. And then she's gonna point on her left. She's gonna point on her left to the guy that's gonna be wearing the red shirt right here, who's gonna stop and look on her right when she say right. Now to show you that both of them back there, who is
pointing towards that direction.
There you go, right there.
Everybody was pointing. Superman pointing. Let's get there. Let's number it up. Let's number it up. So what we have is, we have one right there, that was Mason that was pointing. Two, this guy right here who was pointing in his ear, like to listen and pay attention. Three, we have Superman right here pointing. We have this man right here pointing, and this man identifying to the paperwork, the codes to the paperwork, in which he's going to walk over there towards Lois Lane. From the paperwork, where she's going to say, where Mason going to say, sex maniac. She's going to say right. And then that's when the guy is going to turn, and then Lois Lane is going to point towards him. Show you I ain't making this up. All right? These are what you call codes placed here by the ancient ones. So let's go 2, 3, 3. Clark Kent pointing. 4. This man pointing. Yeah. How many points? So many points. 4. 5, you're going to notice Lois Lane is going to point. 6, then afterwards, Mason is going to point back towards her paperwork. Cold lick and a flick. Let's go. Let's get there. Look. Look. There go the guy right there coming down. Sex maniac profile. Peep game. Watch. She's gonna say right. And look, she go to her right ear. The same ear that the guy who was on the typewriter who had pointed towards his ear. It's key to key in on. Now, important. When he say sex maniac profile, look in the direction in which Mason hand go towards the paperwork that's over there by Clark Kent, aka our Superman. Check it out. Right here. And this is Superman's typewriter. Cold lick and a flick. With the hand on the left hand pass. The left hand path. Alright, let's drop that. Now listen, check it out. Look. Then she pointing. Did you peep that? Why would she even point to him? To key in on what I'm telling you about. She's pointing to him to identify what the red represents the sun, the rod, the reef. The red is also the color for Superman rays of the sun that gives him the energy. And then that's when Mason point. Man, I can't make this up. But ironically, over her head is the letters A and D. Over her head. Could she be pointing in that direction? Also being time released and people going back in time, that the ancient one will whisper these things to me for me to catch on the details. That A and that D in which she pointed towards. Right when she point, she gonna point in this direction. This grand black. Alright? This is actually 23. 2 and 3. But the reason why I bring you to this, because she pointed in the direction where, if you pay attention to the video, part 10, I'm gonna tell you and I'm gonna show you where it's gonna show these two letters. A right here and D right here. A and D. If you research the letters in the Greek, when it speaks about the letters, that is identified as an A. Then it's going to show the D. This is my initial, Ashley DaRon, but of course DaRon Ashley. From the gods through the gods.
Now watch what she do. Look. That's where she pointing. I want to try to catch it.
This lane, this is where she point. She's gonna point on her left. So we know she not talking about Mason. Why would she even gesture the point in that direction? Red signing pertaining to and looking in the direction of not just this guy, but the letters over by this guy. She ran her hand to the ear to listen and look. Cold talking. Look. And look where her hand go. Then her hand shift up top. Look. Her hand shifted up top to the guy with the red shirt. Then it goes down by his waist. And I slowed it down so that you can see it.
Look what Clark Kent. Look what Clark do. When he say there's no Z in Brazil or whatnot, finally, Clark Kent is the last one to point. You see, when we reach out with our cup, we reach out with our hands to grab our cup. We don't point. But this is what Clark Kent do. Look, but he points. He points right here towards that cup. This cup is the same cup. You have to watch all the parts, series or whatnot, part 1 through part 10, or part 9, yeah, part 10, where these two cups that was originally over Lois Lane's head to identify with Serapis Soter. You see? Silver represents goddess, gold represents God. As you will notice the statues of the gods who are colored gold. But the cup is also going to be placed where Lois back into Clark Kent doggy style like. You know, you got to watch part 10, ain't going to give it away. He's pointing to the cup to identify. Remember when they talk about the cup of the grail, all this is coded because all this is here is time release. There's the reason why you see Superman right there. Look. I don't reach out to grab my cup pointing. I reach out to grab my cup with all fours and the thumb on the side. All these are codes. Now, I had it on slow motion so you can see. Now watch what happens. To show you that was a point towards the cup. Or he could be pointed towards the pen. Yo, I didn't see that. Remember me always telling you and talking to you about the pen and how the pen represents protons, electrons, and neutrons. But pen is also the first 3 letters that's in penis. Look what he pointed towards, the pen. Look, the pen. You know, when you put your pen in that pen holder, from the gods through the gods. All right, let's carry on. What does he do next? He goes back to normal position. I had the interpretation of Brazil or Brazil incorrect. So let's cover both. Now Brazil, if she used the Brazil as in Z, Brazil refers to a container used to burn charcoal or other fuel, which identified to the guy that had the red shirt on, red representing fire, and also the sun, and also represent Ra, often for heating or what? Or rituals. Brazier
is an older word for the undergarment that provides the support for the breast, the modern term being bra. So we take it that it's also identified as being used in ceremonies. Brassiere, that's the word to use. This word originates from the French word brassiere, which itself comes from the Latin brachium, spelled it wrong, sure I did. And brassiere is a metal container, often with feet, used to burn fuel like charcoal. They were historically used for cooking, heating, or in ceremonies. Ain't that similar to what the witches have? But it says a container, like that same container that was over her head when she was in the office with Mason. That image that looked like the image of Serapis Soter. Serapis Soter. Now this is Serapis. Who? With a cup over the head. Now, who personified the aspect of divine majesty, the sun, remember? Fertility, the underworld, Anubis is the god of the underworld, and afterlife, as well as healing. The mythology of Serapis was therefore the mythology of his underlying deities, but the aspects of afterlife and fertility were always primary to his nature. The consort of Serapis was said to be Isis, the greatest Egyptian goddess in Hellenistic times. Look, to show you where you get your Jesus from, it says here, Jesus is Serapis. Look. Remember? That's where they coined Serapis Soter. This is dealing with the cup. Why they keep showing the cup in Superman? Lois Lane had this cup over her head. See? Serapis. Christus. Greco-Roman. CA, that 13.5 again. Alright. And then we have the cup also personified as Isis, the counterpart. The Egyptian sun god Horus on the left, similar to the son of God. On the right, the Black Madonna and Sun. There are about 400 to 500 Black Madonnas in Europe. Black Madonnas also exist in South America and Mexico. This is chapter 9. Bring it all together to show you that we're talking about the code of one being the Christ, the Serapis.
What do you see over her head? You see the cup. The image of Serapis is the cup over the head. There's that cup over her head. You see there's a gold near the silver. The distinction between gold represents God, silver represents goddess. Silver is a colorful light. Gold is more so for God. It's a masculine gender, but it's also dualities and connection. So it was no mistake that her paperwork was written and said, instead of saying R-A